Heads up 20 ups. It's good to see you all again, and I enjoyed everybody's videos this past week, and I'm going to try and comment to everybody this week. That's something I haven't done yet, and then spark a conversation perhaps. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm kind of winging it. I have some notes, but we'll see how this goes. A number of people commented on the t-shirt that I wore last time, which was the Tetris block spelling out nerd, which is on the DFTBA website. So, Jins, you can totally go and get one, and you should, because it's one of the most awesome t-shirts ever. I mean, I have a large slew of black geeky t-shirts, as witnessed by my tech support flowchart one, which was an XKCD comic, but I don't know where my friend found it, so I can't tell you all where to go. Yeah, too many black geeky t-shirts. Rima, you made me really sad. I didn't mean to, you sounded really sad about me dying. Rima and TJ, about me dying, about you all not being able to read music. And I was not intending to make people sad. I was really just giving you all a hard time, because to me it's incomprehensible, although I'm totally aware that there are many people who can't read music, and that it's really not a skill that every single person has to have, and that's okay. Yeah. I also realized that initially, when you mentioned the movie of the Phantom Tollbooth, I sat here and I thought, I don't think I've ever seen the movie or knew that it was a movie. And then later on in the week when Craig mentioned it, and I was thinking about it again, and we read the Phantom Tollbooth in 5th grade, and I feel like I have some vague recollection of having watched the movie in class, but I don't actually know. I have no idea. I don't know if I'm making that up, or if I actually have seen the movie and I'm just totally blanking on it. I know that if I saw it, it was in 5th grade, so it was a really freaking long time ago, and totally understandable why I don't remember it. But of course, I've read the book many times, and made me happy that you all had at least heard the title and perhaps are now more encouraged to go and read the book. You mentioned, you were talking about Gregory Maguire as well. I loved Wicked. Lost, which is my favorite of his, because it's different. He got very formulaic, and I don't like it when writers get very formulaic. I tend to stop reading their books if I'm like, it's kind of the same thing, or the same concept, or the same idea, and his weren't holding my interest. And I read Son of a Witch. I had that one, and I didn't really like it, just because I felt like he was simply writing it because Wicked gained so much popularity, not necessarily because he wanted it to be, I guess, 4 books is what you said it's supposed to be soon. And that bothered me a lot, and I just didn't feel like it was very good. And I felt like his writing, I loved Wicked, and then the other ones where he took a lesser character from a story, from a fairy tale, and gave them their own story, just were kind of piggybacking off of the success of Wicked and weren't actually very good. And I'm sorry if I'm hurting your feelings or making you sad. I'm expressing opinions. Yay! I said I was going to express opinions and possibly make people mad today. Here we go! Anyway, but Lost is great, and I do really like Gregory Maguire, and I loved Wicked, and loved Lost. If you haven't read it, it's just different and really interesting. And too hard to give a synopsis for. Lucy, I loved your staff with the notes, and it made me really, really happy. And I know I just said that I understand that not everybody needs to read music, and that my excitement about Lucy being able to draw that probably contradicts that statement, but it was awesome, and I got really, really excited. And of course you're drawing on the screen, which is freaking awesome. But yeah, that was cool. Craig, oh, you were asking about what I was originally thinking of doing in terms of teaching some musical concept, because you're right, it's like huge, and I don't know everything, and expansive, and I took 4 semesters in college and still don't know anywhere near everything. So honestly, my original thought had been something that I'm sure would have been over like everybody's heads, but I would have been incredibly excited about talking about something funky with chords or counterpoint or something bizarre that But as far as what I intend to do now, you'll just have to wait and see. And at some point, that will happen. At some point. I promise. It will. I know exactly what I'm doing now, and it's much more scaled down to you actually might come away having learned something. But you have to wait and see what that's going to be. Welcome, James. It was good to get a little overview of you and what you're up to, I guess. It's actually, you and Craig both have been talking about snow, and I love cold, I love snow, I love winter, all of that, it makes me happy. But it's, the weather up here by DC has been freakish, and I don't like it. 2 weeks ago it was in the 70s, it was gorgeous, it was beautiful, I'm like, okay, spring can come, I think I'm okay with this. And then last week it was in the low 40s and cold and rainy all week, and this week it's back up to the 60s and 70s. So I don't know what's going on! That's my little weather rant. So TJ, as well as a couple of other people, picked up on my little bit that I had thrown in the last video about sharing my feelings about Harry Potter and wanting to hear that rant, and I feel like you've all built it up in your heads now to be a much more opinionated rant than it actually is. And it was really just a side comment. Yes, I'm an opinionated person. I'm a redhead. I have a temper. We can put all of those things together and make for a very opinionated person here. And I don't mind expressing those opinions, which is good and bad. So at some point perhaps I'll do the Harry Potter rant. It makes me nervous because I'd have to go back and actually like concisely think through my point. I have lots of rants, and most of them I've been spouting for long enough period of time that I've got it down to these are the fine points and this is what I'll hit, and Harry Potter not so much, so I have to actually put a lot of thought into that one to make sure that I am speaking concisely and not something that I'm going to do today. But yeah, generally I don't like the movies, and the books were not as well written as everybody makes them out to be, but they got people to read. That's what I can say about them. They got people to read. And Harry should have died. On that note, so this past weekend I was down in Richmond visiting friends of mine because I went to VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University, and those of you who follow sports know that we made it to the Final Four, which is freaking awesome. Of course, then we lost to Butler, which was sad, and but it was very interesting because we had every year Richmond has a big 10K race, and so I was going to support and cheer on a friend of mine who was running that, and they did the whole thing. The people who coordinated the race sent out this mass message to everybody running it, telling them to wear black and gold, because those are our school colors, or black and yellow, whatever you want to call them. And they were calling it a rampede, because VCU ramps. And generally, I've never been a school-spirited person, and I'm not in this basketball in particular, really, kind of don't. It's not a sport that I enjoy watching. There are many sports that I enjoy watching. Basketball is not one of them. So this whole time, I've seen them progress, the Sweet 16, the 8, and then the Final Four, and I'm like, this is exciting. And I knew that I would watch the Final Four game, because it's a big deal. We've never made it to the Final Four before. But I found myself, when I was in Richmond, getting really, really school-spirited and, like, really excited. And, of course, I made sure to wear my VCU shirt and black and gold and be decked out, because you don't want to be in Richmond and not wear school spirit the day of the Final Four game. But it got me thinking a lot about how all elementary through high school, even in college, I don't really care, and I want to be a teacher, and it's something that I struggle with, the fact that as a teacher you kind of have to be school spirited, and oh my gosh, I am not school spirited, but at some point will have to be, and that's going to take some work on my part. But so I guess I have a general question as to if you all consider yourself spirited, and whether that goes back to what you were when you were in school, or if that's like super excited about a sports team, for example. My whole family were big New York Giants fans, so go Giants. But I don't stay on top of them. So I would say I am a fan of this. I'm spirited for them, but I am not a hardcore fan. So I think fandom and spiritedness go hand in hand. So just curious what your thoughts were, and if you feel like that's changed over time, or if it kind of stays pretty steady. I know that a lot of people would say that it's very hypocritical of me to have had like zero school spirit while I was actually at VCU, and now we're in the Final Four and I'm all excited. And yes, maybe perhaps to an extent, that was a lot of possible words. Perhaps that's a little bit hypocritical of me, but I don't really care, because it was fun. It was fun to be a part of this massive group of people, and you went out to lunch and everybody's like, go Rams, and we're walking down the street and kids are yelling out of school buses, VCU, VCU, and it was very exciting, very awesome. Anyway, that's kind of my basic question, if people feel like answering. I hope I will see all of y'all's videos this week, and DFTBA.